Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to 90 Day Fiancé latest news updates. The world of reality television thrives on raw emotion, unscripted chaos, and moments that feel almost too uncomfortable to watch. But every once in a while, a single moment cuts deeper than the rest. A moment that feels less like entertainment and more like a painful window into a fractured relationship. That is exactly what happened during a recent live session involving 90 Day Fiancé stars Darcey Silva and Georgi. When Georgi muted Darcey mid-conversation, right in front of a live audience. What made this moment so shocking wasn't just the act itself, but the silence that followed. A silence heavy with years of unresolved tension, public scrutiny, and emotional imbalance. In that instant, fans weren't just watching a live stream. They were witnessing a power struggle unfold in real time. Darcey Silva is no stranger to the spotlight. Over the years, she has built her reality TV persona around vulnerability, emotional openness, and a relentless search for love. Her relationships have always played out under public microscopes, with every tear, argument, and reconciliation dissected by fans. Georgi, on the other hand, entered her life as a quieter presence, reserved, often misunderstood, and frequently portrayed as emotionally distant. The livestream was supposed to be casual, a simple interaction with fans, a moment to connect, clarify rumors, and maybe show a united front. But as the conversation progressed, the energy shifted. Darcey spoke passionately, emotionally, as she always does. She tried to explain her feelings, her frustrations, and her perspective on their relationship. Her voice carried intensity, not anger, but urgency. She wanted to be heard. Then it happened. Without warning, Georgi muted her. No explanation. No warning. No transition. Just silence. The chat exploded instantly. Fans flooded the comments with disbelief. Some thought it was a technical glitch. Others immediately sensed something darker: control, embarrassment, disrespect. Darcey's face froze for a split second, caught between confusion and realization. That moment alone said more than words ever could. For viewers who have followed Darcey's journey from the very beginning, this wasn't just awkward, it was triggering. Many fans felt they were watching a familiar pattern repeat itself. Darcey expressing emotion and a partner shutting her down. But this time, it wasn't behind closed doors or carefully edited by producers. This was live, unfiltered, public. The power dynamics were impossible to ignore. Muting someone isn't just a technical action, it's symbolic. It removes agency. It silences expression. And when done in a romantic context, especially publicly, it carries a weight that goes far beyond a button click. Social media reactions were swift and divided. Some fans defended Georgi, arguing that Darcey was overpowering the conversation, talking over him, or creating unnecessary drama. Others were furious, calling the act humiliating and emotionally dismissive. The debate grew louder by the minute, reflecting a deeper divide in how people interpret emotional expression versus emotional control. Darcey has always worn her heart on her sleeve. Critics often accuse her of being too emotional, too intense, too much. But supporters see her as brave, a woman unafraid to show vulnerability in a world that punishes it. Georgi's silence in that moment only amplified those opposing interpretations. What many people didn't realize is that this livestream was not an isolated incident. It was the culmination of long-standing tension that had been building behind the scenes. Their relationship has always struggled with communication mismatches. Darcey communicates through emotion. Georgi communicates through restraint. When those two styles collide without mutual understanding, the result is often explosive, or in this case, painfully quiet. The silence after Darcey was muted felt endless. Georgi continued speaking, trying to regain control of the narrative. But the damage was already done. Fans weren't listening to his words anymore. They were replaying that moment in their minds, questioning what it revealed about their dynamic. Darcey eventually returned to the conversation, but something had shifted. Her tone softened. Her energy dimmed. The fire that usually fuels her presence seemed momentarily extinguished. That subtle change didn't go unnoticed. Viewers sensed embarrassment, not loud or dramatic, but internal. The kind that stays with you long after the camera turns off. This incident reignited long-standing conversations about respect in relationships, especially under public pressure. Is it acceptable to silence a partner for the sake of control or calm? Or does that act cross a line into emotional invalidation? The livestream forced fans to confront these questions in real time. For Darcey, whose entire reality TV journey has been about finding love while staying true to herself, this moment struck a nerve. It echoed past relationships where she felt unheard or minimized. And for fans who see parts of themselves in Darcey, the moment felt personal. As clips of the livestream spread across platforms, the narrative grew larger. Memes, reaction videos, and commentary flooded the internet. But beneath the viral buzz was a genuine discomfort. The kind that reminds viewers that reality TV stars are still real people, with real emotions, real pain, and real consequences. This wasn't just a cringe moment. It was a reflection of a relationship under strain, magnified by fame and filtered through a screen. And while the mute button was pressed for only a few seconds, its impact may linger far longer than anyone expected. In Part 2, we will dive deeper into the psychological dynamics behind this moment, Georgi's possible motivations, Darcey's emotional response after the livestream ended, and how past patterns in their relationship make this incident far more significant than it appears on the surface. When the livestream finally ended, the silence did not. What happened on screen lingered far beyond the final seconds of the broadcast, settling into the minds of viewers and, more importantly, into the emotional space between Darcey and Georgi. Moments like these don't simply disappear when the camera shuts off. They evolve, echo, and often expose truths that were already there, waiting to be revealed. To understand why this moment hit so hard, it's important to look deeper than the mute button itself. This wasn't just about control over a microphone, it was about control over narrative, emotion, and perception. In relationships, especially those lived publicly, the struggle is rarely about one single action. It's about patterns, and fans of 90 Day Fiancé have seen these patterns unfold many times before. Georgi has often been described as emotionally reserved, even cold. He processes conflict internally, preferring silence over confrontation. Darcey, by contrast, processes everything out loud. She speaks through her feelings, believing that expressing pain is the first step toward healing. Neither approach is inherently wrong, but when one partner silences the other, especially publicly, the imbalance becomes impossible to ignore. From a psychological perspective, muting someone during an emotional expression can act as a form of emotional shutdown. It sends a message, intentional or not, that the other person's feelings are overwhelming, inconvenient, or unacceptable in that moment. For someone like Darcey, who already struggles with feeling unheard in relationships, this kind of action can feel devastating after the livestream. Insiders close to the situation hinted that Darcey was deeply affected, not angry in a loud or explosive way, but withdrawn. Embarrassment often manifests quietly. It's the slow realization that a private vulnerability has been exposed in a public space without consent. And for Darcey, whose entire public image is built around emotional authenticity, that realization cuts deep. Georgi, on the other hand, reportedly viewed the situation very differently. To him, the mute was a practical decision, a way to calm the conversation, prevent escalation, and regain control of a moment that felt chaotic. But intent does not erase impact. And in relationships, especially unequal ones, impact matters far more than justification. Fans quickly began re-examining past moments from there. Relationship through a new lens. Scenes where Georgi remained silent while Darcey cried. Conversations where he avoided emotional engagement. Arguments where Darcey begged for reassurance while Georgi shut down. Suddenly, the livestream incident didn't feel isolated at all. It felt like confirmation. Social media psychologists and relationship commentators weighed in, explaining how public silencing can intensify feelings of rejection. When emotional invalidation happens privately, it's painful. When it happens live in front of thousands, it can feel humiliating. Darcey didn't just lose her voice in that moment. She lost control over how her story was being told. The power of reality television lies in its illusion of authenticity. Fans believe they're seeing the real version of these relationships. That belief creates emotional investment. So when something genuinely uncomfortable happens, viewers react not as passive observers, but as witnesses. And many felt compelled to choose sides. Team. Darcey supporters argued that she has spent years being labeled too much, too emotional, too needy, too dramatic. To them, the mute button symbolized society's tendency to silence women when their emotions become inconvenient. Team Georgi supporters countered that Darcey dominates conversations and leaves no room for balance, forcing Georgi into defensive actions, but the truth likely lives somewhere in between. This wasn't a villain versus victim scenario. It was a relationship failing under the weight of incompatible emotional languages and relentless public pressure. What made this moment especially powerful was Darcey's reaction afterward. She didn't lash out. She didn't storm off. Instead, she returned quieter, more guarded, as if pulling herself inward. That shift spoke volumes. Often, the most painful moments are not marked by tears, but by restraint. For viewers who have followed Darcey since her earliest appearances, this shift was alarming. Her emotional openness has always been her armor. Seeing it dim suggested not growth, but exhaustion. Emotional fatigue is real, especially when vulnerability is repeatedly met with dismissal. The incident also raised questions about consent in public relationships. When couples agree to go live together, there is an unspoken agreement of mutual respect. Breaking that agreement, even unintentionally, can fracture trust. Trust, once cracked, is difficult to restore, especially when the audience never forgets. As the clip circulated, edited and re-edited across platforms, the moment took on a life of its own. Context was lost. Interpretations multiplied. But one thing remained constant: discomfort. This wasn't entertaining drama. It was relational tension laid bare. Behind the scenes, sources suggest that this livestream became a turning point. Not necessarily an ending, but a reckoning. Conversations were forced. Feelings that had been buried were resurfaced. The mute button became a symbol, one that couldn't be ignored or explained away. In reality TV, moments like these often mark transitions. They force cast members to confront what they've been avoiding. For Darcey, it meant questioning whether being heard was optional or essential. For Georgi, it meant facing how his coping mechanisms might be harming the person he claims to love. As fans continue to debate, analyze, and react, one truth becomes clear. This was never just about a life. It was about voice, visibility, and value within a relationship that has long walked the line between passion and pain. In Part 3, we will explore the long-term consequences of this moment, how it may affect Darcey and Georgi's future, how public humiliation reshapes relationships, and why this single act may become one of the most defining moments of their time on 90 Day Fiancé. As the dust slowly began to settle after the livestream incident, one reality became impossible to ignore. Nothing between Darcey Silva and Georgi Rusev would ever feel the same again. Even if they continued their relationship, even if they appeared together again on camera, that single moment had permanently altered how fans, and perhaps the couple themselves, viewed their dynamic. In reality television, certain scenes fade quickly, swallowed by the next episode or the next scandal. But others linger, embedding themselves into the larger narrative. The mute button moment was not loud, explosive, or dramatic in a traditional sense. It was quiet. And sometimes, quiet moments are the most destructive of all. For Darcey, the aftermath was deeply personal. Her entire journey on 90 Day Fiancé has been built around one central desire: to be loved openly, loudly, and without conditions. Time and again, she has chosen partners who struggle to meet her emotional intensity. Each time she hopes the outcome will be different. Each time she risks heartbreak in front of millions. Being muted live was not just embarrassing, it was symbolic. It represented every time Darcey felt minimized, dismissed, or told to soften herself for someone else's comfort. And while she has often been criticized for her emotional vulnerability, that vulnerability is also what makes her relatable to so many viewers. In that moment, fans didn't see a reality star. They saw a woman being silenced. Georgi's position, however, is more complicated than many critics are willing to admit. Living in Darcey's emotional world is not easy. Her feelings are intense, constant, and deeply intertwined with her sense of self. For someone like Georgi who retreats inward during conflict, this can feel overwhelming. His instinct to mute may not have come from cruelty, but from panic, a desire to regain control in a moment that felt spiraling. Still, intent does not erase consequence. Relationships are defined not by what we mean to do, but by how our actions make our partners feel. And regardless of Georgi's reasoning, the emotional impact on Darcey was undeniable. Public relationships suffer from a unique kind of pressure. Every disagreement becomes content. Every mistake becomes permanent. There is no room for private growth when the audience is always watching. The livestream blurred the line between personal conflict and public performance, leaving both partners exposed in ways they may not have anticipated. In the days that followed, fans continued to analyze the moment frame by frame. Some noticed Darcey's body language, the way her shoulders dropped, the way her eyes shifted after the mute. Others focused on Georgi's tone, his attempts to move past the moment without acknowledging it. These details fueled endless debate, because they felt real. What made this incident especially significant is that it forced a broader conversation about emotional labor and respect. How much space should one partner take up? When does expression become overwhelming? And when does silence become harmful? These are not easy questions, and they don't have simple answers. But the livestream forced them into the spotlight. For many viewers, Darcey's experience mirrored their own. Being told directly or indirectly that their emotions are too much, being silenced instead of comforted, being embarrassed instead of supported. That resonance is why the moment struck such a nerve. It wasn't just about Darcey and Georgi, it was about power, communication, and emotional safety. Whether this moment ultimately brings growth or separation remains uncertain. Reality TV history suggests that moments of public discomfort often lead to either dramatic breakups or carefully managed reconciliations. But even if Darcey and Georgi choose to move forward, the mute button will always be part of their story. It serves as a reminder that technology can amplify emotional harm just as easily as it amplifies connection. One click can erase a voice. 1 second can change a narrative, and once something is seen by the public, it can never truly be taken back. In the end, this was not the most explosive moment in 90 Day Fiancé history. There were no shouting matches, no thrown objects, no dramatic walk-offs, but it may be one of the most revealing, because it showed how fragile communication becomes when respect falters, and how quickly intimacy can turn into isolation. Darcey Silva will likely continue her search for love, because that is who she is. She believes in romance even when it hurts. Georgi may continue to struggle with emotional openness because that is his nature. Whether their paths remain intertwined or diverge, this moment will stand as a quiet warning that being heard is not a luxury in a relationship. It is a necessity. And sometimes the loudest statement is made not by what is said, but by what is suddenly, painfully silenced.